It's fun with the manual, 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 Kant. Hello everyone. Today we're going to be having fun with the manual Kant, because nothing's more fun than an 18th century German philosopher. The word of the day is categorical imperative. Actually, that's 2 words. I would know. I'm a philosopher. Now, Immanuel Kant was a devout Christian. He was so devout that he was worried about following every single rule of Christianity to the letter, and he would tie down his hands at night so that he wouldn't accidentally touch himself while he slept. But Kant realized that his ethical system, the rules of right and wrong by which we live our lives, he realized that because his ethical system is based on faith, something which is definitionally without proof, that it could not work as a universal ethical system. To Kant, faith wasn't something that you could argue for or against. It was just something that you either had or you didn't have. To Kant, arguing about faith was as fruitless as trying to convince a cake fiend not to eat cake, no matter what you tell a cake fiend.
This book, it clearly says that if you eat cake, then all of the puppies of the world will go to puppy hell, which is full of vacuum cleaners.
But in this book, it says that the divine creator wants us to eat cake, and that puppies will go to heaven if and only if we eat as much cake as humanly possible. But my book is right. I know, because I've been touched by the divine spirit, so I know. I've been touched by the real divine creator, so I know, and I'm going to continue to eat cake. Kant, though still a devout Christian, realized that people couldn't come to a consensus about faith, and thus it couldn't work as a universal ethical system. But he also wasn't happy with the prevailing ethical system at the time. Utilitarianism is an ethical system which seeks to maximize the pleasure and minimize the pain for the most amount of people possible. But Kant didn't like this consequence-based ethical system because he thought that it was far too subjective. So he decided to come up with his own ethical system. So Kant thought and he thought until he came up with, I know, I'll create the categorical imperative. Kant thought that we should always act such that our actions could be made into a universal law, and such that our actions never treated people as a means to an end, but an end in and of themselves. Kant thought that we could sort of tap into a universal ethical system through our ability to reason. Kant's categorical imperative says that there are certain actions or inactions which are necessary if we're to have a system of universal law. If an action is universal, you have to be able to perform that action in any situation. It works like this. Let's say you have an ethical dilemma. Should I murder somebody or not murder somebody? What if you murder everyone? Uh-oh, now there's no one left to murder. That's a situation where you cannot murder other people, right? And if all actions must be made as if they were going to be made into universal law, and murder can obviously not be a universal law because it cannot be replicated in all situations, then it is not permissible. Lying is similarly not permissible because it cannot be replicated universally. The point of a lie is to deceive. But if everybody is lying all the time, then no one can successfully deceive anybody ever because we all know that everybody is lying. So if lying were made into a universal law, it couldn't fulfill its very purpose, which is to deceive. So lying cannot be made into a universal law logically. So that means no lying ever. But what about white lies to spare somebody's feelings? Do these jeans make it look like my butt has a flamingo sticking out of it? According to Kant, you should always tell the truth, even if it's hard, because otherwise you're going against your duty to that person and to yourself to always be honest. And ultimately, that's what the categorical imperative comes down to. It is our duty to others and to ourselves to follow these ethical rules or imperatives. One prominent criticism of Kant's deontology, his categorical imperative, is that for a system which tries to tell us how to live our lives, it's actually quite difficult for us to live our lives by, if not nearly impossible. For instance, instance, philosopher Benjamin Constant asked, what if there were a person with a bloody shirt and a knife at your door asking if your mother was at home? According to Kant, you couldn't lie to this person. You cannot know that this person will kill your mother, but you can know that to lie would be to treat this person as a means to an end, which is wrong. To Kant, you can only make ethical decisions based on what you can know, not on assumed consequences. Time for a thought experiment. Imagine that you are on a remote island, and then, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, comes down a group of super strong space banditos. And the super strong space banditos are wearing bulletproof suits, and they give you a gun. Now, they tell you to kill Little Billy because they don't like the cut of Little Billy's jib. And they say if you kill Little Billy, then they will spare everybody else on the island. However, if you don't kill Little Billy, then they will kill everybody else on the island. So, what would you do? Please tell me down in the comments or in a video response. This episode has been brought to you by the letter Aleph and the number set kind of thing. Aleph, no.